The health journey. So it came to my attention pretty recently that despite my feelings, as if I have talked and talked and talked about health on this channel, that in comparison to the vast majority of things that are on my channel, I really haven't talked that much about my story, how it is that I came from where I was to where I am in regards to my health, and how it is that I'm doing anything. Because quite honestly, y'all, if I had stayed stuck in the health situation that I was in, and we'll go back to 2017 for y'all, I would not be here. I would not have the capacity to be having a YouTube channel. I would not have the capacity to make daily, even every other day, even weekly videos. I would not have the capacity to speak to people, to be anywhere, to travel anywhere, have done anything whatsoever. So I figured it was appropriate for me to, at long last, tell this story. I think I may tell this in 3 parts so that it doesn't become too long, so that people don't feel like they have to watch the entire saga. And I'm not going to go too deep into any kind of, the negative details, because it's not super helpful to have those details. What's helpful is how did I get from where I was to where I am now, and how can I take you with me along that journey? This would be the part 1. And part 1 is the hardest part of the story, because part 1 was to paint a picture for you. Back in 2017, I had a really tough breakup. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence, and my health was not very good. I had seemingly become lactose intolerant overnight. This was funny because I was a girl who, at the time, was drinking up to 2 glasses of milk every single day without fail. And I mean like 8-ounce glasses of milk for the majority of my life, because quite honestly, I didn't know any different. And one day, I guess my body had just had enough and had become so incredibly intolerant of lactose, of milk, of any dairy product, that I genuinely became lactose intolerant, and it literally took hold overnight. Now, again, I say that it was probably a buildup of the intolerance. I didn't really notice, maybe. And then suddenly one day, my health was just awful. I couldn't eat anything without my stomach becoming really uncomfortably upset. It would hurt. I would feel nauseous. I would get bloated in a feeling where, this is really strange to describe, I would get this feeling of like big bubbles inside of my stomach, and when they would pop and erupt, it was so painful, and it would just travel around my stomach. And my stomach was so always upset. I couldn't leave my house for fear of there not being a bathroom nearby, because my stomach was so completely unreliable that literally, as I said before, I couldn't have done a YouTube channel. I couldn't necessarily have had a conversation with any person for over 15 or 20 minutes, because I couldn't guarantee that my stomach wasn't going to be like explosively in trouble. And it was really terrible. My depression went up, my anxiety levels went up, my level of self-worth and self-confidence went to the toilet, along with many other things. And I remember just feeling very sick, very tired, and really sad. And it was also really hard on me, because something that you may learn about me if you know me closely or whatever, if you've picked up on this about me, I'm a pretty organized and neat person in terms of like organization. At that time in my life, I was so sad, so sick, and feeling so alone that quite literally, even me, a very neat and organized person, I had begun to hoard stuff around me. Now, at this time, I was living by myself, so I was able to acquire this hoard of stuff. Now, when I say hoard, I don't want you to think, on the show hoarding. It was not that bad. However, again, I want to emphasize the point, though. I'm a person who you can essentially, this is something that my friend said to me a long time ago, and it turns out it's true for me as well. And she said, you can tell the state of my mental health by like the state of organization of my home, or whatever, the space I'm living in. And that same thing has been very much true for me. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. It's very easy to tell when I'm not doing as well mentally, because my space tends to become more cluttered. So back then, I had all of this. I mean, it's hard to imagine now, if this was me from the past, that there would be stuff everywhere, here, everywhere. And to be perfectly straight with you guys, my level of self-confidence and everythingness was so low at that point that I wouldn't have even allowed people near me who could have even witnessed the hoard right? And so I was just feeling trapped in this honestly hellish cycle of feeling sick, not having enough energy to clean up, kind of wanting to clean up because I don't really feel good in a hoarded mess, and feeling physically unwell. So therefore the energy to take care of the things that needed doing wasn't there. And that's the beginning of my journey, because at that point I sought out the help of doctors. And unfortunately, the doctor's response, the traditional medical doctor's response to me at that time was essentially, well, you can live this way for the rest of your life. I guess in retrospect, I'm thinking, like, in the moment, did they mean that I could just continue on living in that way? Because that was not life. I was barely even surviving at that point. Anyway, reflecting back on that for a minute, they're basically like, well, you can continue on, or you can take meds and feel better. And honestly, the first and only thought in my head was, so you're saying that even though I'm only 30 years old, that I have to take these meds if I want to feel like a normal person for the rest of my life, and it can just happen like that? And if you want to know why I'm telling you the beginning, like the hardest part of my story, where did I come from? Because a lot of you tuning in, especially if you're here new now, then to you, I may look perfectly happy and perfectly healthy. And that's not a facade. It's just that had you seen me in 2017, that was not the same girl. We are not at all the same woman, the same person. And I was not doing well. This is essentially part 1 of 3. This was the worst it was. I was isolated. I had no social life. I felt physically ill almost all of the time. Anything and everything that I ate would react to me. And at that point, I had no idea what was going on. So it really was like a free-for-all with food. I was doing what I thought was the best thing to be eating, and every single thing was upsetting my stomach. And I was starting to get sick of feeling sick very quickly. If you find yourself in that situation, firstly, I want to say this, that there is absolutely hope. Please do not give up hope, because I finally found it. And that is the reason that I have a channel which I aim to focus towards health and empowerment and well-being in the long run. That's what I'm passionate about, because I lived the hell version of things on earth. You know, being bedridden is not fun. Being tied to your house and tethered to bathrooms, it's not a fun experience. And the funny thing about health, not funny, haha, is that most people take their own health for granted until or unless they have what one might call a health crisis. Something that puts you into a serious enough of a situation, be that a heart attack, be it anything else like that, God forbid, or you get diabetes or something like that happens. It's a wake-up call that these bodies have limitations, and that while we as a soul inside of the vehicle, the body, are unlimited, our bodies do have an expiry. And just like anything else, if we're not taking care of it, then they can deteriorate. And that's when we really start to feel bad. And the sub problem to that, something I'm going to help you guys through as a part of this channel and just the things that I share, is that one, you don't have to accept this like version of reality where you become a certain age and then these ailments just come and you have to accept them. That is not true. And a lot of this, of healing yourself, depends upon the information you have. And what's sad to me, the most sad, and the reason that my channel is passionately about this, is because honestly, and I dislike saying this, it's the truth though, is that most folks don't have the, I'll call it correct for lack of a better word, don't have the correct information to keep their body running optimally so that they can actually feel good enough to do what it is that they have, that they're dreaming about, that they want to do in life. I see it out there all the time, and it just makes me so sad, because I know that there is hope. So many people don't realize there's hope because they're believing in health information, which isn't. It's not information, nor is it the correct or accurate or up-to-date health information. And that's a part of the story that I will be sharing with you guys as we progress further. But I thought today, let's talk about when it was hard. And so that if you recognize yourself in any part of my story, I invite you to come along as I tell the rest of this journey, and to also see what I can offer you, because it's not a joke that at the end of these videos, I offer you guys coaching. It is truly my mission on earth here to help and uplift people in whatever way I can. And the way that that has always been for me is through frequency, vibration, and health. I learned a heck of a lot about health, and I have the tools that will keep any human being healthy for their future, for forever, for the sustainable future. Like, spend some time with me and you will acquire and learn the tools to be healthy for the rest of your life. End of story. And I have complete and total confidence in that, because I literally walked the path. And here's the thing. I walked the path alone you don't have to. So I invite you to come with me on that. So if you know anyone who this video would help, please do share it with them. That also helps me to get my message out there. Subscribe, as that also helps me to get the message out there to those folks like you who may need to hear this message. And last but not least, as I've said, if you do need any support or health coaching, I'm your girl. Don't hesitate at all to reach out to your comedian health coach at this email address, where it would be my pleasure to serve you in any way that I can to get you feeling awesome again. So have a beautiful and a blessed rest of your day or night whenever you're seeing this, and I will see you, gorgeous cats, in the next one. Namaste, much love, and definitely stay healthy. Bye. But though, perhaps like along with many other things. So I was able. So you're saying that even though I'm only 30 years old, that I have to take these meds if I want to feel like a normal person for the rest of my life, and it can just happen like that? My story, how it is that I came from where I was to where I am in regards to my health, and how it is that I'm doing anything. If I had stayed stuck in the health situation that I was in, and we'll go back to 2017 for y'all, I would not be here, as I know that there is hope. Spend some time with me and you will acquire and learn the tools to be healthy for the rest of your life.